The remote and largely unexplored planet of Rax 3 was infamous for its harsh environment, characterized by sheer black cliffs and swirling poisonous sandstorms. In the heart of this unwelcoming terrain, the remains of a small exploration vessel lay scattered across a rugged gorge. The ship, which belonged to the Aarin, a race celebrated for their elegant designs and cutting-edge technology, was now little more than a burnt-out shell. Inside the wreckage of the cockpit, Lisara, the pilot, fought against the remnants of her restraints. Her body throbbed with deep, aching pain from numerous injuries, and her scales, usually a vibrant shade of blue, were dulled by dust and blackened by parts. The crash had left her disoriented, and her mind raced as she struggled to remember the events that had led to her desperate situation. As Lisara finally freed herself from the debris, the reality of her predicament struck her. She was alone, stranded on a hostile planet with no way to communicate. Her ship's emergency beacon, which should have activated automatically, lay in ruins beside her. She knew the odds of rescue were slim. VX-3 was off the beaten path and rarely visited due to its hazardous conditions. Crawling from the wreckage, Lisara managed to stand, leaning heavily against the twisted metal of her ship. She surveyed her surroundings. Towering cliffs cast long shadows over the ravine, and in the distance a storm was brewing, its dark clouds swirling ominously. Lisara knew that if she remained by the wreckage, she would not survive the night. With considerable effort, she began to walk, her limbs shaky and her vision blurred. Every step was agony, and the winds began to lash violently, throwing sand against her wounds. Yet, driven by an innate survival instinct, Lisara pressed on. She needed to find shelter before the storm hit in full force. As night fell, the temperature plummeted rapidly. The cold seeped into Lisara's bones, a stark contrast to the heat of the day. She found a narrow fissure between two large rocks and wedged herself inside, hoping to shield herself from the wind and the biting cold. Her mind wandered to thoughts of her people and the mission that had brought her so far from home. Tears mixed with the dirt on her cheeks as she realized she might never see them again. Carter's ship, the Intrepid Explorer, was a streamlined and agile vessel, perfectly suited for the kind of solo reconnaissance missions he often undertook. As he piloted the craft through the thick clouds of VX-3's upper atmosphere, his eyes were fixed on the readouts flickering across his dashboard. The signal he had detected was weak and intermittent, suggesting that whatever had emitted it was either badly damaged or barely operational. The descent through the planet's turbulent atmosphere was rough. Winds buffeted the Intrepid Explorer, and Carter had to fight with the controls to maintain a steady course. As he broke through the last of the cloud cover, his sensors finally locked onto the source of the signal, the smoldering remains of an alien vessel scattered across a ravine. Carter circled the site, his expert eyes scanning for signs of life. It was then that he spotted a lone figure staggering through the desolate landscape. He couldn't believe it. Survivors were rare in crashes this severe. He made the decision then and there to attempt a rescue no matter the risk. Protocol dictated caution when interacting with unknown species, but Carter's moral compass pointed firmly towards helping those in need. Lowering the Intrepid Explorer onto a relatively stable patch of ground, a safe distance from the wreckage, Carter prepared himself. He donned his environmental suit, equipped with its own life support and communication systems, and grabbed his medical kit. The kit was stocked with an array of tools and medications engineered to be compatible with a wide variety of biological systems, a necessity in the unpredictable frontier of space. As Carter approached, he observed the alien more closely. She was clearly injured, her movements sluggish and pained. He noticed the unique shimmer of her scales, an iridescent blue that even in her weakened state glowed faintly under the light of the planet's twin moons. "Hey, it's okay, I'm here to help," Carter called out as he drew closer, his voice muffled by his helmet. He knew she might not understand his words, but he hoped his tone would convey his intent. The alien turned towards him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. She tried to back away, but her injuries hindered her and she stumbled. Reacting quickly, Carter reached out to steady her, his hand gently grasping her arm. I'm not going to hurt you, he reassured, pulling out a scanner from his kit to assess her injuries. The device emitted a soft humming sound as it analyzed her condition, providing Carter with vital information about her physiology and the extent of her injuries. With the data collected, Carter began administering first aid. He applied biofoam to seal and disinfect wounds, injected painkillers, and wrapped thermal blankets around her to combat shock. All the while, he remained acutely aware of her reactions, ready to pull back at the slightest sign of distress. As he worked, Carter continued to speak in a calm, soothing tone, explaining each step as best he could. "You're going to be okay," he said, hoping his voice conveyed the sincerity of his words. With the immediate medical care administered, he helped her back to his ship. The journey was slow and fraught with difficulty, but eventually they reached the safety of the intrepid explorer. As Carter helped her into the cabin and secured her in one of the seats, he glanced back at the ravine, the winds howling around them, a stark reminder of the planet's hostility. Inside the ship, as the door sealed shut, the alien's tense posture slowly relaxed, her breaths becoming less labored. Carter initiated the takeoff sequence, the engines of the intrepid explorer coming to life with a gentle roar. Back aboard the intrepid explorer, Carter monitored their ascent from the hostile surface of RX-3, ensuring they cleared the planet's turbulent atmosphere safely. As the ship stabilized in orbit, he turned his attention to the alien he had rescued. She was resting, still weak, but now in a stable condition thanks to the ship's medical facilities. Carter's ship was equipped with a basic translator module designed to facilitate communication between different species through an analysis of language patterns. It wasn't perfect, especially with less common languages, but it was better than nothing. He activated the device, hoping it could bridge the gap between them. Lara watched wearily as Carter approached with the translator. His gestures were calm and non-threatening, and she understood on an instinctual level that he meant no harm. When he spoke, the device hummed softly, and his words were slowly converted into her language. "My name is Carter. I'm here to help, not hurt," he said carefully, observing her reactions. Lara, still cautious but curious, responded. Her voice was a melodic contrast to the static-filled mechanical translation. "I am Lara of the Aarin," she said, her tone laced with uncertainty. The translator struggled but managed to convey her words. Carter smiled, relieved that communication was possible. "It's nice to meet you, Lara. You're safe here. Can you tell me what happened to your ship?" Lara hesitated, her memory of the event still fragmented by the trauma. "I was exploring new routes through this sector when something went wrong. Systems failed. I crashed." Her voice faltered, the pain of the memory evident in her expression. Carter nodded, understanding the difficulty of recounting such an experience. "I'm sorry that happened. We're heading to the nearest space station. They have better medical facilities and can help us figure out what caused your crash." As the journey progressed, the initial awkwardness gave way to a cautious rapport. Carter showed Lisara around the ship, explaining its various functionalities. In return, Lisara shared bits and pieces about her people and their technology, fascinated by the similarities and differences between their cultures. The translator improved as it learned from their exchanges, making their communication smoother. Lisara's curiosity about human technology grew, and she was particularly intrigued by the ship's artificial intelligence system, which monitored life support and navigational controls. As they approached the space station, a sense of mutual respect had formed between the human and the Aarin. Lisara, who had started the journey in fear and confusion, now found a semblance of comfort in Carter's presence. She was still far from home, but not alone. Carter, for his part, felt a deep sense of satisfaction in helping Lara. What started as a rescue mission had evolved into an unexpected friendship. He was also aware of the potential implications of Lara's crash. Sabotage was a rare but serious concern in interstellar travel. As the space station came into view, a massive structure orbiting a quiet star, Carter prepared for their arrival. He contacted the station requesting medical support and clearance for docking. "Once we're docked, I'll stay with you," he assured Lara, who looked apprehensive about what awaited her. We'll figure this out together. Lara nodded, grateful for the support. As the station's docking clamp secured the intrepid explorer, she took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges came next with a newfound ally by her side. The docking process was smooth, a testament to the efficiency of the space station's automated systems. As the airlock sealed with a hiss, Carter and Lisara were greeted by a medical team ready to provide further assistance. The team, a diverse group of species including humans, moved efficiently, their expertise clear in every action. Lisara was carefully transferred to a stretcher, her apprehensive glances at the unfamiliar surroundings eased slightly by Carter's reassuring presence. He stayed close, explaining the bustling activity around them as they moved through the pristine corridors of the station. The medical center was a hub of advanced technology. Carter watched as the doctors used sophisticated diagnostic tools that made even his ship's medical kit look primitive. They conducted a thorough examination of Lisara, scanning her physiology with devices that floated around her, emitting gentle whirs and beeps. Meanwhile, Carter filled out necessary forms detailing their encounter and Lara's condition as best he could. He noted her improving health thanks to his initial interventions, and his observations were corroborated by the medical team's findings. Lisara, though initially overwhelmed by the flurry of activity and the alien technology, gradually relaxed. The medical staff communicated through the translator, explaining their actions to ensure she was comfortable. They administered treatments that were specifically tailored to her biology, complex compounds that accelerated tissue regeneration and nanites that aided cellular repair. Watching the care they provided, Lisara felt a deep sense of gratitude towards Carter for bringing her here. After the initial flurry of medical activities subsided, Carter and Lara were given a room in the station where they could rest and talk more comfortably. The room was small but well-equipped, with a view of the star-studded space outside. As they settled in, Carter broached the subject of the crash again. Lisara, now that you're feeling better, do you think you can tell me more about what happened before you crashed? It might help us figure out if it was an accident or something else. Lisara nodded, her mind clearer now from the medical treatments. I remember anomalies in the navigation readings, fluctuations that didn't make sense. Then a sudden failure of the propulsion system. I tried to correct, to stabilize, but it was too late. Carter listened intently, his brow furrowed. That sounds like it might have been sabotage. We should investigate the wreckage of your ship. Maybe there are clues there that can tell us more. Lisara agreed, her own suspicions now reignited by the recollection of the events. Yes, I would like that. I need to know if someone caused this. With a plan forming, Carter contacted the station security office to arrange a visit to the crash site. While waiting for approval, he and Lisara discussed their next steps. The conversation was interrupted by a call from the station's commander, inviting them to a meeting to discuss their findings and the implications of their situation. Carter looked at Lisara, seeing her determination mirrored in his own, ready to find out the truth. He asked, and Lisara nodded, her resolve strengthened by the human support. More than ready. At the station's command center, a circular room lined with holographic displays and bustling with officers of various species, Carter and Lisara were met with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The commander, a seasoned Yultrundi named Keth, welcomed them with a firm nod. Mr. Carter, Miss Lara, thank you for joining us. We've reviewed the preliminary reports about your incident, Keth began, his voice resonating deeply. Given the unusual nature of the crash and the potential implications, we're keen to understand more. Carter and Lara exchanged a look, then Lara took the lead. Thank you, Commander Keth. I believe what happened to me was no accident. The malfunctions were too systematic, too precise. Keth nodded, motioning to an officer who brought up data on a large screen. We have analyzed the distress signal and the last recorded data from your ship. There are indeed anomalies that suggest external interference. The data flickered across the screen, showing erratic patterns and sudden drops in system functionality that were hard to explain as mere equipment failure. Carter stepped forward, pointing to a specific spike in the data. This here looks like a remote access attempt. Someone might have tried to take control of the ship's systems. The room buzzed with murmurs from the staff as the implications of such an act were severe. Sabotage in space, especially in uncharted territories, could be a declaration of hostility or an attempt to stake illegal claims. Keth raised his hand, silencing the room. "We must investigate this thoroughly. Miss Carter, Miss Lara, we can offer you resources, technical support, access to our databases, and a security detail to revisit the crash site." Lara was quick to agree, her warrior spirit galvanized by the commander's offer. "We accept your help, Commander. We want to get to the bottom of this." Carter looked at Lara, impressed by her resolve. He added, "We need to check the wreckage ourselves. Whoever did this might have left more than just digital traces." With the station's support confirmed, Carter and Lara spent the next hours planning their expedition. They were given access to advanced scanning tools and drones that could sift through the debris field more efficiently. As they prepared, their partnership deepened, each learning from the other's expertise, Carter with his knowledge of human technology, and Lara with her experience in Aarin engineering. The following day, equipped with their new tools and accompanied by a security team, they set out for VX-3. The journey back to the planet was tense, both aware of the dangers that might await them, not just from the planet's harsh environment, but from whoever had targeted Lara's ship. Landing near the crash site, they proceeded with caution. The security team set up a perimeter while Carter and Lara began their investigation. Using the drones, they mapped the area, collecting fragments of the ship's hull and any remnants of the ship's systems. Hours into their search, one of the drones signaled an anomaly, a buried section of the hull with scorch marks that did not match the expected pattern from the crash. Excavating carefully, they uncovered what appeared to be a device attached to the ship's primary engine module. "It looks like an explosive device," Carter noted, examining the object through his scanner. "Definitely sabotage." Lisara's expression hardened. "Someone wanted me dead or stranded. We need to find out who and why." Back on the space station, the mood was grim as Carter and Lisara presented the explosive device to the assembled group of experts in the Security Council chamber. Detailed analysis confirmed it was a sophisticated mechanism designed not just to disable but to destroy. "This is a military-grade explosive, typically restricted to armed forces. Whoever placed this has connections, serious ones," explained a security analyst, showing the intricate design and components on a large holographic display. Lara, standing beside Carter, felt a chill run through her. The realization that someone had gone to such lengths to target her was both frightening and infuriating. She clenched her fists, her resolve strengthening. "We need to trace where this device came from. There must be a trail." Carter nodded in agreement, turning to Commander Keth. "Commander, can we access trade logs and shipping manifests? Perhaps there's a record of this device being transported." Keth authorized their request immediately and data started pouring in. Hours of sifting through digital records followed, a tedious but necessary effort. Finally, they hit a lead. A similar device had been shipped discreetly to a port notorious for its less-than-legal dealings, located on the fringe of the galaxy. With a new destination in mind, Carter and Lisara prepared to leave the station. They were equipped with more than just data this time. They had the station's best tech and a small, skilled team assembled by Keth to support their mission. The journey to the spaceport was tense, filled with discussions on potential strategies and contingencies. As they approached, the spaceport loomed large, a sprawling mass of docks, warehouses, and shady marketplaces. It was the kind of place where anything could be bought or sold for the right price. Upon arrival, they decided to split up to cover more ground. Carter, with 2 security officers, headed to the docks to trace the shipment's entry point, while Lara and another team visited the marketplaces to gather information from the locals. Using a mixture of charm and a bit of coercion, Carter extracted useful information from a dock manager. The shipment had arrived months ago, carried by a freighter that often did runs for a mysterious and powerful client. Meanwhile, Lara used her Aarin authority to intimidate and persuade the market vendors. One nervous trader finally cracked, revealing that he'd seen similar devices sold to a known mercenary group. Reunited to share their findings, Carter and Lara felt the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. Looks like we're dealing with mercenaries. This is bigger than a simple sabotage, Carter concluded. We need to track down this group, find out who hired them and why they wanted your ship destroyed, Lisara added, her voice firm. Their investigation led them deeper into the underbelly of the spaceport. As they delved further, they drew the attention of the mercenaries they were hunting. It wasn't long before they found themselves ambushed in a narrow alley, the mercenaries aiming to silence them once and for all. What ensued was a fierce shootout. Carter and Lara, backed by their team, fought with precision and determination. The battle was intense, with the energy blasts lighting up the darkened passageways. Amid the chaos, Lara's combat skills shone. She moved with a grace and efficiency that belied her recent injuries, taking down opponents with non-lethal strikes. After a tense few minutes, the mercenaries were subdued. Among them was their leader, a rugged Vexen known for his ruthlessness. Bound and disarmed, he was not so intimidating now. "Who hired you?" Lara demanded, her gaze piercing. The Vexen sneered, then, realizing his position, divulged the name of a corporation, a powerful entity with investments in pioneering technologies. They wanted Lara's mission to fail, to prevent her from claiming a resource-rich asteroid belt she had been surveying. With the mercenaries captured and the conspirators' identity revealed, Carter and Lisara knew their next move. They needed to confront this corporation and bring them to accountability. The stakes were unprecedented, yet so was their resolve to expose the truth and safeguard the sanctity of space exploration and trade. Carter and Lara's voyage from the spaceport toward the headquarters of the corporation, suspected of masterminding the sabotage, was characterized by palpable anticipation. Situated on the vibrant trade planet of Nelon Prime, the corporation, known as Helix Corp, wielded considerable power and was profoundly interwoven with the planet's economic structure. As they neared Nelon Prime, Carter revisited the evidence they had accumulated. It was compelling. However, confronting a corporation of Helix Corp's magnitude necessitated more than mere evidence. It demanded a meticulous and strategic approach. Upon landing, they masked their intentions by presenting themselves as traders with an interest in pioneering mining technologies. Nelon Prime was a nexus for such commerce, rendering their disguise credible. The planet thrived on trade and information, its streets a vibrant labyrinth of vendors, tech merchants, and corporate spies. Helix Corp's headquarters was an imposing edifice of glass and steel, dominating the cityscape. Within, the atmosphere was frigidly professional, with security checkpoints at every entrance and surveillance drones hovering at strategic junctures. Carter and Lara, along with their team, managed to procure a meeting with Helix Corp's executive board under the pretense of discussing prospective business ventures. Upon entering the boardroom, they were greeted with courteous nods and guarded smiles. "We're here to discuss the Aarin asteroid belt and its potential for mining," Carter initiated, projecting assurance. "However, we have misgivings about security in the sector, given recent events." The executives exchanged glances, their interest piqued. "What sort of security concerns?" one of the executives inquired, his tone meticulously neutral. Before Carter could respond, Lara produced a device and placed it on the table. "We're concerned about this," she stated, as images of the sabotage ship and the explosive device flashed across the screen. "Found on my ship, designed to kill and prevent any claim on the Aarin belt." The room immediately grew tense. The executive stiffened. "You accuse us of sabotage?" another executive challenged, his voice a blend of outrage and apprehension. "Not just sabotage, attempted murder," Carter countered resolutely. "We have evidence linking Helix Corp to the purchase of the device and witnesses from the spaceport who saw it delivered." The executives whispered amongst themselves, the facade of control faltering. One of them, a woman with incisive features, stood up. "This is a grave accusation. If you have proof, we must discuss this internally. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding." Carter and Lara recognized this as their opportunity. "There's no misunderstanding. We demand transparency and accountability," Lara declared, "or we take our evidence to the Galactic Council." An uneasy silence permeated the room. It was shattered by the abrupt sound of alarms. Helix Corp's security forces had been alerted to the confrontation and were en route to apprehend them. Realizing they were about to be ambushed, Carter and Lara sprang into action. "We need to leave now," Carter exclaimed, as they retreated toward the door. What ensued was a tumultuous escape through the corridors of Helix Corp as security personnel converged upon them. Blaster fire ricocheted off the walls, and the team employed non-lethal tactics to defend themselves, unwilling to escalate the violence but needing to escape. Navigating through the labyrinth of the corporate behemoth, they made their way to the roof where their escape ship awaited. As they boarded, Lara glanced back at the towering structure. "This isn't over," she vowed. With Helix Corp exposed and their initial escape achieved, Carter and Lara knew they had to prepare for the next phase. They would need to present their findings to the Galactic Council to ensure that justice was served, not just for Lara, but to prevent such actions from jeopardizing the delicate balance of interstellar commerce and exploration. With the evidence of Helix Corp's malfeasance in hand, Carter and Lara prepared for the next critical step, presenting their case to the Galactic Council. As they journeyed toward the Council's headquarters, situated on the neutral planet of Arania, they were acutely aware of the gravity of their mission. The Galactic Council was the governing body responsible for maintaining peace and order among the diverse species of the galaxy. Its decisions carried immense weight, and its judgments could shape the course of entire civilizations. Arriving at Arania, Carter and Lara were escorted to the council chambers, where representatives from numerous species awaited them. The atmosphere was charged, with murmurs of anticipation echoing through the grand hall. Standing before the council, Carter and Lara presented their evidence methodically, detailing Helix Corp's involvement in the sabotage of Lara's ship and their attempts to obstruct her mission. They laid out the timeline of events, the witnesses they had interviewed, and the data they had collected. The council listened intently, their expressions ranging from skepticism to outrage. It was evident that Helix Corp's actions had struck a nerve, threatening the principles of cooperation and trust that underpinned interstellar relations. As Carter and Lara concluded their presentation, a hushed silence fell over the chamber. Then the council deliberated, debating the appropriate course of action. It was a tense wait, each moment stretching out as the fate of Helix Corp and the broader implications of their actions hung in the balance. Finally, a decision was reached. The council ruled unanimously in favor of Carter and Lara, condemning Helix Corp for their unlawful actions and imposing severe sanctions on the corporation. Assets were frozen, executives were arrested, and Helix Corp was barred from participating in any further interstellar trade or commerce. The verdict was met with a mix of relief and satisfaction from Carter and Lara. Justice had been served, and the integrity of the Galactic Council remained intact. But their mission was not yet complete. As they left the council chambers, Carter and Lara knew that there were still challenges ahead. The fallout from their actions would ripple through the galaxy, and there were those who would seek to exploit the situation for their own gain. As they boarded their ship and set course for their next destination, Carter and Lara reflected on the journey that had brought them together. They had faced danger, betrayal, and adversity, but through it all they had forged a bond that transcended species and boundaries. With Helix Corp exposed and justice served, Carter and Lara found themselves at a crossroads. The intensity of their shared ordeal had brought them closer together, forging a bond that transcended the boundaries of their respective species. But now, as they stood on the threshold of new adventures, it was time to part ways, for now. On the space station that had been their refuge during the tumultuous events, Carter and Lara exchanged farewells amidst a bustling crowd of travelers and traders. Their ship, the intrepid Explorer, waited on the docking bay, ready to carry them toward their separate destinies. "I don't know how to thank you enough, Carter," Lara said, her voice tinged with emotion. "Without your help, I would not have survived, let alone uncovered the truth about Helix Corp." Carter smiled, a warmth in his eyes. "You don't need to thank me, Lara. Helping you was the right thing to do. Besides, you taught me a thing or two about resilience and determination." They clasped hands, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had formed between them during their shared ordeal. It was a connection forged in the crucible of adversity, one that neither of them would soon forget. As they prepared to part ways, Lara turned to face the bustling spaceport, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "I have to return to my people, Carter. They need me now more than ever. But I won't forget what we accomplished together." Carter nodded, his own gaze drawn to the infinite expanse of space stretching out before them. "And I have new missions to embark on, new frontiers to explore. But I'll always remember the time we spent together, Lara." With a final embrace, they said their goodbyes, each stepping onto their respective ships and setting course for the unknown. As the intrepid explorer and Lara's vessel drifted away from the station, they exchanged one last wave, their hearts heavy with the weight of parting, but buoyed by the knowledge that their paths had crossed for a reason.